for Monday, January 15th to order. We have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted.
Yes.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4 is public appearances, and this is public's opportunity to speak about any subject that's not a specific agenda item. I'm going to let Troy introduce our new EMS chief tonight. And
Yeah, Jeff, if you
Come on
want
up.
to come up. Jeff is 1 day short of 2 weeks on the job now. Comes to us from MATC as the Director of EMS Training.
EMS Program Director.
And lives in Deerfield. Also is working over at Middleton in their EMS, participating as a paramedic. So if you, a little bit about yourself. And,
Sure, and I appreciate the opportunity just to come and say hello. As Troy said, I've been on the job for about 2 weeks now. So my name is Jeff Matcher. I'm the new EMS chief for Deer Grove. Again, I've been in EMS since about 2008, paramedic in 2010, critical care in 2013, TEMS, tactical EMS in 2014. I've worked both for private EMS as well as municipal departments locally here, and then I spent a year up in Wausau teaching at North Central Tech and as a member of South Area Fire, which is the accommodation department up there. I've been living in Deerfield for about 2 years now, love the area. I was drawn to Deer Grove because I went through school with a number of the paramedics. Had an opportunity to teach a number of them as well, so another really good group to work with out here. I'm excited for the opportunity. Much more background. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's in education. So I'm looking forward to grant writing because I can add fluff to pretty much any length paper that you need me to make it sound good. I appreciate the opportunity. I apologize I'm not going to be able to stay for your whole meeting. I do have some family obligations tonight, but just wanted to take a chance to say hello, answer any questions if anybody has any. I know Jack and Troy can get a hold of me at whim. Again, 2 weeks, no cards on me yet, and not for any contact information, but.
welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you, welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Good seeing you again.
All right, I don't think we have anything else. Number 5, discuss and consider the minutes of the regular village board meeting of January 4th. Any comments, corrections, additions?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by John and second by Troy to approve as presented. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. For the record, James is excused tonight. He told me he was not going to be here. So. Okay. All right. New business. We have interviews for the vacant trustee position. You'll see the letters of interest in your packet. I know John and Melissa have both been here before, but I guess I'll invite one at a time. John, if you want to come first and just tell us a little bit about yourself again, and just so you're on the camera.
Thank you once again, John Russell. Based on the letter that I've submitted the last 2 times, my wife and I have lived out here. It'll be 20 years here this summer. I've served on 3 previous commissions for the village, utility, ordinance, and joint emergency government. Currently serve on the planning commission as well as the police commission. I'm also on 2 subcommittees for the school board, so I think as part of what Jack Essick had set out last week, there's obviously some development going on within the school district for future development, probably most likely out here in Cottage Grove, and it's just a matter of when the school board decides to go to referendum. So I think I can bring not only my experience living in the village, serving on past commissions, but also over the past year, my newfound interest in the school board and supporting the school board with some of their endeavors. Retired a year and a half ago from the military, 26 years of service, so I do have some additional time to continue community service here, supporting the village of Cottage Grove board. And one thing that's not in the letter is I do have, being out here 20 years, I do have great connections with town residents as well as town board members, and I know I'm hearing that the village and the town are actually meeting moving forward, which I think is a great thing. I mean, outside of Cottage Grove, it's really one community. Our kids go to school together, they're in sports together. you go to church together, you do a lot of extracurricular activities, and I'd really like to see the board and the town move together in one direction. And I could always agree on everything, but I think lending that olive branch out to the town and actually coming to the table with some viable discussions, I think is a step in the right direction.
Okay. If there's any questions for John, we can take those. Just as a caveat, in fairness, we have asked the same questions of both candidates. Does anybody have any questions?
Anybody? I have one.
Okay.
So, and I'll ask certainly this of Melissa as well. How do you approach complex discussion with opposing sides? And then do you have an example of that?
Certainly. I think, well, like I just discussed, I mean, I think it starts with like possibly a listening session, and whether the two parties come together and can determine what the root cause of the actual frustration is, or if unfortunately need to bring in a third party unvested interest to the table, be it define what the root problem is. In the military, we have what's known as the military decision-making process, and you first define the problem, and then you kind of do some backwards planning to lend to the solution. But with most conflict, what I found is that people can have their voice heard, and if there's some sort of compromise that can be made, that usually lends best. Once again, I mentioned I have a number of friends not only in the town but on the board, realize who I'll be representing here in the village, but also seeing Cottage Grove as a whole community.
Any
Thank
other-
you. No, it's,
Okay.
No, I do.
Jeff?
What would you say is your heart for Cottage Grove?
It's basically, I've been here 20 years. It's the only hometown my wife's known. Before that, I was on the east side of Madison, so I know the greater east side, Dane County, but been here 20 years and don't plan on leaving anytime soon, so the heart's right here in Cottage Grove. Although it is getting harder on days like this because they're moving south.
Is there any area in particular, any committees that you feel like you could hit the ground running because of some background that you've had within our community and with your previous position in the military?
Certainly. I think any of the joint boards took a chance to look to see what Forrest was assigned to. So I think he's on the landfill. He's on a couple different committees, utilities. I served 2+ years there. I had to resign due to my first appointment. Emergency government, I was the chair for that. For 1 year, served on there for 3 years, and actually updated the SOP, which hadn't been looked at or updated in over 20 years. Really found a passion on the Planning Commission. I think it's unique. And as Mick can attest at the last meeting, they're kind of working on some processes on when there's either future developments or new businesses coming to the area, maybe coming up with some sort of process where rather than you hit the first meeting where there's a public hearing and the Planning Commission takes a vote, and the same thing with the village board, maybe you add in an extra meeting or two where you can get the differences of opinions with the citizens and constituents out there, and then possibly start coming up with a systematic process where it's just not all rushed through.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you.
Melissa?
Hello. So you just want me to give my background information again? Okay. So I am a mother to 2 daughters. I am a paralegal for almost 18 years at Eisenberg Law Offices. We've lived in the village for almost 4 years now. My husband's family has lived here since 1991, and so we've been in the village a very long time. Even though we haven't physically lived here, we've been active. Our kids went to daycare here in 2005 to 2000, when my youngest started kindergarten, and then we enrolled them into the school district. So I just applied for the village board because I know that I can help the residents in the village.
All right. All right, so same question, so you already heard it, but I'll say it again. How do you approach complex discussion with opposing sides, and then do you have an example?
Well, I think the first thing is to listen to the other side to understand where they are coming from, because that's the first step in order to understand their side. And if they can understand your side, and you can hopefully find a mutual solution between the two. And my job as a paralegal, we've had to do mediation with a third party where we're one party and there's a defendant, and we work with a third party attorney that helps to mediate the case. So I understand that you have to give and take and understand where the other side is coming from.
Okay. Thank you.
So what's your biggest heart for Cottage Grove when you think of it as a community?
When I think of it as a community, well, my family is here. I mean, it was our anchor, so I guess it's nice. It's a little bigger now, but it's a nice small community that seems to have a lot of family ties, and there's just a sense of community, even though there's lots of different areas now. It all seems to be one.
What specific barriers could you contribute to the village, to village government? From your background, what areas could you possibly hit the ground running?
Well, I've been to, I think, almost every committee meeting, so I've participated, well, I've watched, observed what happened at each of them, and I applied for the CDA because it said there was a vacancy on the website, but I'm not sure that there was. And I guess if I could choose one, I like Parks and Rec the best, just because I have had the most interaction with them before I started going to committee meetings. And I think it's important to keep developing areas where our children can go and play, and where families can go besides just their backyard, so that they can walk and enjoy nice days or winter days like this.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Item next, 6B, discuss and consider appointment of trustee. Again, like I said, we've got both two very qualified candidates here, and it's always a tough choice, especially when we've got a vacancy in an election coming up. I guess once again, I'd like to nominate Melissa if there's a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and a second to nominate Melissa. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
No, aye.
Okay, was that 3 or 4?
Three.
Two ayes.
Abstention? Okay.
No, three. I think 3 no's, I believe.
Maybe we could have a roll call.
Yeah, that might.
Okay, we'll do roll call.
Henrik,
Aye.
Limber,
Aye.
Williams,
No.
Allen,
No.
Conrad.
No.
So that's 2 ayes, 3 no.
Okay.
Motion to approve John Russell for the vacant
Second.
position for trustee.
Okay. You second?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion and a second to appoint John Russell as trustee. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay, abstention? Okay, I guess we need a roll call vote, or did you get that?
Should we do, let's do a roll call.
Let's do a roll call vote again.
Okay. Limber,
Nope.
no.
No.
Williams,
Aye.
Allen,
Aye.
Conrad,
Aye.
Henrik.
No?
So 3 yes, 2 no.
Okay. All right, congratulations, John. I guess we're going to take a recess while you swear him in, is that?
Sure.
5 minutes, 10 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay. All right. Okay, item 6C, John, I don't know if you saw the agendas online or if you got part of what the electronic attachments are. Operator's license typically goes through the detective and then he makes a recommendation. We have actually, I think, 5 people here. Kimberly Myroyd, Anthony Reinhold, Delia Anderson, Shane Mata, 6 people, sorry, Amelia Turnbauer, and Kelly Wagner. And from what's in the packet, Matt, if I'm not mistaken, Ben said they're all recommended. Is that correct? No
Correct.
issues?
No issues.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve these 6 individuals? Or 5 and, yeah, 6 individuals, sorry.
Motion to approve the operator license for the 6 individuals which were passed through by police. No issues.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve operator's licenses for Kimberly Myroyd, Anthony Reinhold, Delia Anderson, Shane Mata, Amelia Trumbauer, and Kelly Wagner. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. 6D, discuss and consider resolution 2018-01 regarding authorizing the village to participate in a Wisconsin Department of Transportation 2018 to 2022 Transportation Alternatives Program. Acronym is a TAP grant in the amount of $700,000. I'll let Aaron talk about this. That's to do with the bike trail, is that correct, Aaron?
Yeah, I think that's
And-
JJ's
Oh,
doing
JJ,
that.
I'm sorry.
Essentially, Public Works Committee authorized MSA to be our designated TAP fund seeker at the Public Works Committee last week. As a part of that funding, they require that the local governing board supports the program.
Okay.
Essentially, it's to somehow connect the bike path through the village that's coming from Madison to the trailhead here, most likely along Clark Street. But at this point, it's just the village board stating that they support the project to get the trail through the village and that we're committed to providing the 20% local participation, which be around probably, based on this estimate, $140,000
Okay.
of the project. The rest would be funded by the TAP money. And it doesn't have to be necessarily next year or even the year after. It does look like it could be all the way out to 2022. You may have to pick which 2-year budgeting cycle. That's not necessarily clear if we'd have to decide then, but basically you're not even committing it to the next year necessarily. It's just that
Okay.
you're committed to funding the project.
Okay. I guess one of the questions I would have, if we're committing to funding this and participating, how much control do we have over exactly where this trail goes, if that's...
Entirely, well,
Okay.
entirely within the village limits, yep.
Okay.
In order to get the funding, it'll have to meet, we've already planned for that, it'll have to meet, it's got to be off-road. Those are the kind of things that they want to see, especially
Sure.
for this particular trail. But in our preliminary discussions, that's already something we were looking at anyway, so.
Okay.
Yep, once we get the funding, it's our project.
Okay.
So, just so JJ had presented the 2, our SOQs, I guess.
Yep.
At the meeting, and so I'm
Mentioned already.
circulating them around. I only have 1 copy of each,
Yeah.
but you can see the differences between the 2. I think JJ, you saw it at least 1 more, if not a couple more.
Just one more, was just a letter declining to submit.
Yeah, so-
And this is just another requirement of TAP funding, because it's federal dollars administered through the state and then to us, so there's more requirements. And then so our SOQ, actually I was going to discuss this under Public Works Committee, but it does seem we can do this now.
Sure.
I suppose. There were 5 criteria. The firm's understanding and approach to this project, related project experience for the assigned firm personnel, firm's project experience and qualifications, the firm's past work experience with the village, and reference track comments. Each was 20% equally. MSA had a lot more detailed information on this particular project and their approach. So, and not to mention the past work experience, so it really was pretty obvious choice, but I always like to offer somebody a chance.
Sure. Any questions for JJ on this?
JJ, do we know for sure that we're going to get these funds, or is this an allocation?
Nothing's for sure, but it's been unofficially stated. This is going to be a very high priority project though for everyone. You want to make sure that our connection is not the missing piece when this is all said and done.
Yeah, because this connects the bike path across the state.
Yep.
Right, so
Less-
it benefits other communities too, not just us.
So they're planning on connecting the bike path from Madison to Cottage Grove.
Yep.
And I guess what's the date that's planned for? And then how does this incorporate into that if that's already planned to get it to us? I mean, is it all of a sudden going to end at the edge of Cottage Grove and we have to get it from the edge of the village to
To the trailhead, yep. Basically,
Okay.
ideally, we're going to beat them and we'll just say, meet us, here's where we ended, come to us. They have to be done by 2021. I believe tentatively they're going to be fitting that timeline. Probably, was it 2020? They were planning to finish construction, but
So there's no chance at this point that we would do our part, take advantage of grant, and then all of a sudden they don't connect it?
I don't think so, just because they're on the hook for all the dollars that have already gone in, or federally funded. If they don't actually construct the thing by then, all of that has to be paid back. The county will
Okay.
have to give all that back. So they have a strong incentive to get that path here.
Okay.
And the county's done a lot of legwork and easements and everything else that are needed to make this happen. And as I said, it's the last little link between, that basically connects the state all the way across.
Yeah.
It's through this little piece of Madison through us to Trailhead here.
So it's 700,000 plus the 140,000 the village?
Nope, 700, and our portion would be 20%, would be 140.
Okay, so 700,000 total then?
Yeah. And again, that's still early. Mike's only been authorized for a few days, so, and we'll have pulled together, and the TAP funding is due in a couple weeks, but then they don't announce anything until August, I believe, and then you have years to actually do it. So we've got a lot of time for outreach and talking at committee level.
Any other questions for JJ on this? Okay, thank you. I'm assuming Parks and Rec probably would want some input into this too, maybe a little bit with the bike trail, but we can cross that when we come to it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, we kind of need to do this right away, and then you know, can have
Yeah.
conversations amongst the committees and
Get our
certainly
ducks in a row
citizen
first.
input, et cetera. This is basically to get the grant funding.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I would move to approve the resolution for the TAP grant.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve the resolution to participate in the Wisconsin Department of Transportation TAP grant in the amount of $700,000 for total funds, not our funds. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Let's go back up here. Okay. Discuss and consider the parking fee increase. There was an electronic attachment here, and I'm not sure, Matt, is this, we have a handout here, general provisions, violations, and penalties. Is that also related?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is,
All right. I guess, I mean, I've read what you've submitted, and our fees are pretty low compared to a lot of communities. And the alternate side thing, obviously, interferes with public works and other things besides making issues on the roads. I'll let Matt talk about what they currently do with alternate side parking now. I mean, I know you guys enforce it, which is good, but. So it's-
Yeah, I mean, the ordinance is from November or December 1st all the way until March 15th. Alternate side parking's enforced, you know, nightly, especially when there's snow events. We try to leave it alone when the weather's warmer, even though the ordinance is in effect. Just to play nice with everyone, especially in November and December when it was 40, 45 degrees, there was no point in affecting it. So it helps JJ and his guys out by getting the vehicles off the street so they can clean the streets properly, make them safe. The more cars that are parked on the street and that don't move, just makes it harder for JJ to clean it up, especially when it gets colder and then it becomes ice, and now we have boulders in the middle of the road. So we had looked at neighboring agencies or neighboring municipalities' fines, and we just saw that we were extremely low. And I believe Lee's got a little bit more on it when it comes to just the increase and where we want to fall into it.
If you look in our code, chapter 1, it talks about, it references something called a schedule of deposits. And our schedule of deposits is actually entitled fee schedule. So we're going to need to change that so that the language matches up. And then the proposal is to change the parking tickets to $20. That's the proposal. And that's what should be before you.
I mean, personally, I think that's probably a good idea. I think nowadays, maybe that would get somebody's attention, I guess. Any thoughts from board members?
It's consistent with other area communities.
Okay. All right.
Is parking, has it been an issue for you, JJ, and for the police as you're going around? I mean, are there a lot of offenders?
The first month that we do it, we try to issue paper warnings first, just reminding everyone that it is back in place. So, I mean, for that first month, I mean, there's the continuous offenders, but then they catch on and remember that we're in the alternate side parking, so it does go down. But there are a lot of repeat offenders when it comes to alternate side parking. So I think increasing the fees just kind of gives them the shock and awe value of, okay, I need to find a better place to park. So to answer your question correctly, I mean, yeah, I mean, our guys are writing parking citations every night related to alternate side parking.
Does it affect you guys like today with the snow? And
Today, not so, I mean, it is, you can see a few where you're plowing around them and things. The bigger thing will be, 2 days from now, when we're hopefully completely done with this particular snow event, we'll be getting the calls about, we need somebody to come and scrape up, which now, especially with the temperature dips, just like you said.
And I think the courtesy warning thing is a really good thing because they can't really say they didn't know when you see a big orange piece of paper on the windshield.
Yeah, and I mean, we've put it on, I mean, our Facebook page, I know Lisa put it on the web page, so I mean, we do as much as we can for, publicity getting out there. I know the paper ran it just reminding people that it was going into effect, so, I mean, we're doing everything we can to warn them, but like I said, for the safety feature of it, like JJ said, it's just every other day, just so they can get out there and clean up each snow event, basically preparing themselves for the next one, so.
And the current fee is $10, is that correct?
Correct.
And are we having success collecting some folks?
I mean, yeah, they come in and pay. I don't know where we are when it comes to how many we've issued and how many we've got paid. I don't have that number for you.
I think if they don't pay, eventually it works its way up to the regular court. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, all parking citations kind of fall under that realm of, if you get to a certain amount of money, then we can start suspending license plates, which then they won't be allowed to register their vehicle until they pay their parking fines. So yeah, I mean, there's just a tier.
I mean, I just wondered if it should be $25 instead of 20. Grab someone's attention. I mean, especially with repeat, as you call it, repeat offenders.
Matt, would it be fair to say probably about 5% of the people are about 90% of the problem, or is it just all over random?
That's about the stats for all of my job.
That's what I was wondering. So,
Yeah, 95% of our time is spent on 5% of the population.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of what I thought.
5% of the population. But yeah, I mean, again, it's every now and again you get that, we do it as fair as we can. I mean, around the holidays and stuff like that, we know people are coming from out of town, so we suspend it. We're not doing this we're doing it just for the safety feature of getting that snow off the road. But again, I mean, $10, it's the same thing with the seatbelt stuff. It's a $10 ticket, so is it really that shock and awe? But when you start hitting people where it counts in their pocketbooks, they sometimes pay attention a little bit more.
It really sounds like we're being as generous and kind as we can from the warning perspective, and, you know, kind of, it's not a snowstorm, it's the holidays, people are from out of town and stuff. I guess I would make a motion to move it to $25.
I'm fine with that if it works for everybody else. I mean, I don't think that's excessive.
I don't think that's excessive, and it grabs someone's attention versus $10. I mean, you know, I don't know if it isn't effective or what, but, you know.
I can speak from experience. When I worked in Oregon, we had the same issue, and it seemed that people got it a little bit more when they're bringing $25 checks in instead of 10. I don't know what the exact stats are, but
Yeah.
Chief Labor won't be upset if we give him more than he asked for.
I would doubt it. I mean, you look at it, we all pay attention when we park in the city of Madison because their tickets are $50+
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that same mentality of just, you know, keeping the streets safe for everyone.
Okay. Nick?
I'm going to vote against it, and I'll tell you why. This was put on our website for the public to see what was going on tonight, and it's $20. And I'm fine with 20, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to raise it beyond that without letting the public have some say. And if you want to go to 25, I say let's bring it back the next meeting and give the public an opportunity to decide whether they think 25 is too high or not.
Okay. Any thoughts on that? I mean, I want to do it next week, Troy, or you want to vote on it tonight? I mean, is there a problem with that, Lee, making it 25 tonight?
No, but I understand what Mick is saying, is that you've given notice that it's going to be 20. I don't think that we'll be inundated with people over the $5, but I mean,
Okay.
the idea is to give as much notice as possible.
Okay.
And if people would just park on the right side of the street to begin with, it would be a moot point to even talk about it, but obviously that's not happening.
Would you be okay with putting it on a website that we're increasing it to
Sure,
20?
and then just delay this for a week then?
Or till the next board meeting, but
Yeah. Or for that's what I meant by a week,
Okay.
next board meeting. No, that's fine.
just in fairness, okay,
Yeah.
so you draw the
No,
motion
that's
and
an
we'll,
issue.
if you could just put it on the website, Lisa, that we're going to consider a $25 alternate side parking citation. Okay. Great. Thank you.
So we need to move to table this.
Right, I'll move to table till, well, you want a date on there?
February 5th, is that right?
5th, yeah, till the February 5th meeting, we'll table this, pending vote on the increase to $25. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second to table to the February 5th increase pending a $25 parking, alternate side parking citation adjustment, to $25 rather. Okay, any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I do have to say for the board's benefit that every time we talk about parking, I get a little, feel my blood pressure go up because we adopted a parking, alternate side parking ordinance, and it turned out that ours was opposite of Madison. So at night, people would watch the news and they would say, now make sure you're parking on this side of the street. And then we had all these people come in going, well, that isn't fair. So ultimately, we were able to get that. So that was this would be the least of our problems.
Fair enough. All right, 7 is reports from village boards, commissions, and committees. First is Community Development Authority. John and Nick.
And Mick, feel free to jump in anywhere. So the CDA had a good discussion regarding the potential of developing a TIF, or TID, or TIF, however you want to define it, over in the area where Casey's was proposed, the portion of BB in between CVS and the post office, both sides of the street. There was direction to staff to consider ours to do an investigation, financial modeling of that area, as well as extending it all the way down through the overlap to this area, which is actually going to across the street by the bank, behind the bank. around the bank, because that TID is not performing very well, and in fact is not really allowing us to do proper development because it's so well aged. So that's going to come back to the committee at our next meeting for discussion. Nick, anything else?
One of the landowners was present.
Oh, yes.
And suggested that we might increase the TID to include some residential land that he has right behind the commercial. And what he's proposing, if we would do that, is he thinks there would be maybe $4 million worth of increment that would be created there. And he was open to having 100% of that increment coming back into the TID, so he wouldn't be taking anything out of it as a developer or asking for anything for us to provide him any sort of financial incentive. So Ellers, our financial consultant, is looking at these different proposals to try to see really where we're at and to see whether some of this really would make sense. This TID that we have here, I think, is up in 7 years. And what we can do is we can overlay that with another TID to get out to 27 years. So I mean, that's part of it, of the proposal. Otherwise, we may just be looking at a TID down by where Casey was looking at having its project.
Okay. So when the CDA comes up with the scope of the TID, does does that come to Plan Commission or right to the village board, or how does that?
Well, ultimately, if you're going to create the TID, I think it goes through plan and then the board, if I remember.
There's a joint review board.
Yeah, that's created.
Well,
So we did this, we amended TIF 5,
Yeah.
so we've been through the process, but
It includes the county and the school district and the tech school and the village.
And all this is obviously the discussion of actually getting something built there.
Sure.
Rather than just having greenfield, because it's been, over a dozen years that the one owner has been sitting on his property. And really, we need to get something going there, get the services out to the community and the citizens in line with the comprehensive plan.
And to add to that, John, I think not just get something going there, but get something going that the village wants. Not just
in line with the comprehensive plan.
right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Public Works and Properties, JJ, I know we just kind of covered this. Is there anything more on that?
I don't think so, no. I think we covered most of the important stuff there.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Utility Commission, I was there and I remember, let's see, Matt was there. JJ was, yeah.
We discussed the progress on the lift station force main project and the potential sewer rate increase. We are probably going to bring that up again at the next month's utility commission meeting.
Okay.
So where maybe Baker Tilly will be present or not. I don't know if there will be some questions maybe you want to ask her. But so kind of to be continued. Once that is finalized, it'll be a report for the board.
Okay.
JJ, is anything going on with this cell thing? Did they ever get back to you, or?
Supposedly he was going to send me an email, but I haven't gotten one yet. That's where that stands.
Okay.
Maybe we can discuss and consider staging qualifications
For-
for the TAP grant,
Oh, okay, yeah, he did that, we did that when he did.
but you don't need a motion.
We don't.
Start the negotiation.
No. Okay. All right, Plan Commission, discuss and consider request from Chase Lumber Company for approval of a certified survey map to divide the existing 2.3 acre parcel at 123 East Cottage Grove Road into 2 parcels. There's several attachments there, and for those of you that I guess weren't at plan, that we're talking about the northeast corner of NMDB, but I'll let Aaron talk about it. We had to do a little bit of adjustment on impervious surface, I believe.
Yeah, this is the parcel right down the street. I'm sure you're all familiar. It fronts both on Cottage Grove Road and on Main Street. Chase has buyers lined up for both halves, so they want to split it in 2, so it'll be one parcel on Cottage Grove Road, the other on Main Street. The one catch that they have to take care of, there's a maximum amount of impervious surface you can have on a lot. The newly created Lot 2 would be over the limit. So this was approved on the condition that they can't record the CSM until they get a minor site plan amendment to define the pavement they're going to remove to get within compliance. Once they do that, then the CSM can be approved. Any improvements they want to make to the site beyond that, and I think they are planning some landscaping, building improvements that would have to come into the Plan Commissioning Board for the full site plan review. So we recommend approval with the conditions in the village action.
Any questions for Aaron or what's in your packet?
Nice to see something's gonna go in there.
Yeah. Sat vacant for a while. Okay. All right, somebody want to make a motion to approve this CSM?
A motion to approve the CSM.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve the request for a certified survey map to divide the existing 2.3 acre parcel at 123 East Cottage Grove Road into 2 parcels.
Incorporating the recommendations from.
Yeah, incorporating the recommendations from staff, as you see on your packet here. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Okay, reports from village officers. Troy?
No report.
Okay, Nick?
No report.
James is not here. John, welcome. Anything on your first report? This is kind of a general
I
commentary.
just want to thank the board once again for the opportunity to serve and look forward to giving all my effort.
All right. Jeff? Okay. I have nothing. Lisa has something regarding crossing guards. I'll let her, before we get into other staff here.
Sure. Just wanted to let everybody know that Crossing Guard Appreciation Week is coming up January 22nd through the 26th. So if you see a crossing guard, thank them for their service. They do an awesome job. And we did give them a little gift bag with some things in it and a thank you card.
Yeah. We take them for granted, but sometimes they take their lives in their hands out there in some of those intersections.
Actually standing out there in the cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Attorney Lee Boucher?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, Matt?
We'll be interviewing Sean Brusiger, myself, and Kristen Krause, administrative assistant, will be interviewing 5 finalists for recreation supervisor position, replacing Reese McCaskill, who moved on to a similar position in DeForest. So a good pool of applicants, about 25 to 30 applied, and we're down to 5, and should be able to have someone in that role by the beginning of February.
Okay. All right. Aaron?
No report.
Okay, Lieutenant Wagner, anything else from the police?
No report.
Okay. JJ says review of annual report.
I'll be brief. You can all see the annual report in the packet. It's my attempt to let the board know what the staff of the department does every day. Essentially, there's a rundown of the individuals, their duties, and again, it's brief. I tried to keep it brief. They do more than you could ever put in a report and keep it under 100 pages. Trying to highlight the persistent issues and projects from this year and coming up next year. Saldal reconstruction, long overdue, was a big success this year. The lift station enforcement project is in the works. Snow and ice control, always. Pothole filling and patching are always issues. We made significant strides on the utility side this year with our automated metering infrastructure. We had another staff member really take to it. He was trained by our primary meter technician, and so we were able to get over 500 of our meters changed out. So we're a lot closer to just completely automating water meter reading. I anticipate now that we actually could be on track to completely have that system running in 2019. School Road N is a big success, a lot safer intersection, a lot better traffic flow. Working with MSAs, guys, we now have our GIS maps all on here, and we can track maintenance, make reports, take pictures in the field of hydrants, manholes, anything we see, and it just dumps instantly into a record. It's permanent and there for anyone immediately to see. Village Streets Condition Report, every other year I'm required to rate every road in the village and submit it to the state. I do keep an eye on them ahead of that. I do it every year myself, but when I report it, they send you these nice charts, and actually as a result of the Seldal project and the new streets in West Lawn, our numbers, not a lot, but they did, our roads overall got a little bit better these last few years. But again, it's an ongoing issue. We've got to keep an eye on road maintenance. Our staff are all certified water operators, always taking continuous training. We have annual refresher training to not only be safe in the field, but also to make sure that we're following safety regulations, not opening the village up to any kind of liability. So they're constantly training. And then my attempt to just try and show everybody that, you know, there's 6 people in the field, me and Kristen and Cynthia. And Kristen's part-time, and I share her with Sean, and Cynthia's over here at the hall doing all kinds of things. So they're by no means just public works, but that small group does all these things on that last page. So it's actually pretty impressive when you tally it all up. So just wanted to brag a little bit about our staff. And if you ever have any questions on anything or anything in that, feel free to give me a call or stop by.
We appreciate what you do with such a small staff.
Thank you, Jay.
Mick has a question.
Hey, JJ.
Sorry.
On page 8 with the village streets condition report, the last sentence says the village officials should consider taking a more proactive and aggressive approach to road work. What would you suggest that we do?
I suggest, it depends. It's nuanced because some projects are bigger and you can incorporate a new road with a more expensive project. Basically what our budget now, the best way to use those dollars are on things like crack filling is the most important thing you can do, but at a certain point the street is so cracked that it doesn't make any sense. So we crack fill and seal coat the newer streets, which does make great sense. Keep that water out before we do the permanent. Like Seldal was, even if we made it beautiful, we milled or overlaid a nice asphalt, the base had been soaked for years and they would just begin cracking and failing. And that's where, well, before we get to that point where a street, maybe seal coat doesn't make sense, or crack filling, there are too many cracks for that to make sense, you can do what's called a mill and repave. And like we did on Southern Grange last year, we repaired a small section where basically they come in and mill off typically 2 inches. And then you get a look at below, how's that looking? And if that's still in good shape, you repave it, and then you've got a surface there that for drivers, it's smooth, now water's not penetrating anymore, and it's a lot cheaper than complete reconstruction where you're digging up all the asphalt, you're getting in new base courses of rock and rebuilding the base and everything. If you can mill and repave, but that comes at a significant cost, those kind of things. So it'd be a hefty increase in the road maintenance budget, or maybe those kind of projects, once they get to be enough, which I think we're nearing the point where there are enough streets, that basically if you're rated a 5 or a 6, that's about you're either waiting now until you're completely reconstructing, or you should look at milling and repaving. And many communities, what they do is if it's a 5 or a 6, they say, we'll make sure the big potholes are filled, but we know that the water main needs replacing, or we know that something underneath needs to be replaced anyway. So in Seldal, it actually made sense for us to wait as long as we could because the water and sanitary sewer system had to be replaced. There's not many other locations where the utilities underground, you can't justify digging them up. They should be lasting another 80 years. So we should be looking at more milling and repaving. But it's a big dollar amount typically to really start to be proactive on that. But I think of streets like, a good example, a good long stretch of a wide, well-traveled street would be West Lawn. It's in good shape, you ride it, you don't really notice bumps, there's not really potholes, but if you look, you can see that we've already put a maintenance treatment over it. It's been crack filled a number of times, but now there's little cracks everywhere. Having a contractor come in and do anything there doesn't make any sense. It just, they wouldn't be able to get every crack anyway. But if you just take a cursory look, it still looks solid. It's got the same form it should have. It shows you that the base is probably in good shape. Be a good candidate for a mill and repave. And hopefully that buys you 20, 30 years right there. You just stay on top of your crack filling on top of that new surface.
I guess when I read this, my concern is that we may be short-sighted, and which means maybe in 5, 10 years, we're paying way more than what we would expect to pay if we had just been handling these things appropriately each year.
And I don't know of any community that's not being short-sighted, because it's easy for me to say, but you guys are the ones that, you know, ultimately have to make that decision, and people don't necessarily understand. It's hard to explain to somebody that if we didn't, you know, 10 years from now, this road would have cost us $1 million, where now it would have cost us $200,000. But I can start developing a little more formal thing with a little bit of, maybe reach out to Mike and get some numbers to it, and come back at a different time with more of a formalized plan than just my gut.
Where I see this heading is, I think as a board, we're going to be looking at traffic impact fees in the next, I don't know, few weeks. And I would think the information you have will be critical to our decision-making process.
Absolutely. That's why I put together an annual report.
Okay. Thanks, JJ.
Thank you.
Number 9, communications and miscellaneous business. 9A is consider approval of vouchers. Any comments, questions, or is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve vouchers as presented. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Correspondence, I don't think we have anything official other than what we just looked at with the Rachel Drummond path here. Future agenda items was, we're going to put impact fees back on, or are we going to wait a week?
No, that's going to be on in the first week of February.
First week of February 5th?
Yeah.
JJ, is that enough time?
Oh.
If we talk about impact fees, the February 5th, is that enough time for you to have something
A couple of weeks.
sketched out?
Yeah, I could just, yeah, I think so. Mike and I were just talking about that already, but there may be more to it.
Okay, so do you want us to hold off till the following meeting?
I think what he means more to it is there's a, like an accounting study, engineering study. So I mean, but the initial discussion probably could happen.
Okay. All right. Anything else on future agenda? All right. I'll be meeting with John here sometime in the near future. We'll talk about what committees and commissions, but that can go either under my heading or under John's, I guess, whichever. Anybody else? Any future agenda items? Okay. All right, at this time, I'll make the motion that the Village of Cottage Grove will enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985, parent 1, parent C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Administrator's contract and performance evaluation. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, with a second, we'll have roll call vote.
Allen,
Sorry.
Conrad,
Aye.
Elmore, Henrik,
Aye.
Lindberg,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Russell,
Okay, we're now in closed session.